it's nuanced, right? There's a variety of responses depending on who you talk to and where on the continent. African officials from Kenya, a country that has a strategic relationship both with the US and China, may have a different opinion than those from Senegal or Cameroon or Mali, whose relationship is now stronger with China. But overall, reactions range from considering, the US condemnations as, a bit of paternalistic somehow, but also to reactions putting US officials in face of their own lack of investment in infrastructure on the continent, something that China does much more. As you will see from my responses, I'm insisting on the infrastructure component, right? Because many of these governments in their national development plans, they put infrastructure first. And Western countries, including the US, have, not been, or let's say have, especially from the late 90s to the early 2000s, have invested much less in infrastructure and invested more in aspects related to health, education, governance, promotion of democracy, and so on, and not provided enough funding for infrastructure projects. And then China came in and, offered this based on a rhetoric saying, well, we have been able to develop by putting infrastructure at the center of our development model. And so this is what we can provide you with, all these turnkey projects, cheaper, although, we can criticize this because, many of these projects are not always viable or sustainable. But yes, I think that when the EU or US officials come and criticize China, on the other hand, what African citizens or also officials tend to say is that, well, at least they come and provide us with what we need to develop. There's been a change in how Western countries, criticize China. In the beginnings, in the early 2000s, they were extremely aggressive. And more, there have been some nuances. You asked the US, but I can also give you the example of the EU countries. What President Macron said officially is that, well, maybe we should also think about changing our investment rules and taking more risks, just like the Chinese are doing in Africa. And this is a change in the discourse because 5 years ago, a president like Macron or a French president wouldn't have said this. The official discourse was very much about blaming China, and saying that, well, the West or the EU or the US can provide more, can provide better arrangement than China's.